welcome everyone to this question and response session with Jacqui Lewis, who we're so lucky to have you here in person.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Jacqui. Before we get started, I just wanted to invite you all to start posting questions. So you'll see where you can post the questions either next to this video or below the video. And we're just going to take a minute to receive some more questions. And then also, please take a moment to review the questions we have and vote the questions to the top that you feel like would benefit the community we have present today. So we'll just pause for a minute and we'll wait for your questions and your voting, and then we'll begin.
So everyone, I'm Jacqui Lewis, and I'm so glad to be here in this incredible space at the CAC headquarters and to be a part of this incredible CONSPIRE conference. It's interesting to me always that a Franciscan priest, Richard Rohr, and a Presbyterian African-American woman have so much in common in terms of our theology and the way we think about God and the way we think about the universe. So I'm always inspired by Father Richard Rohr's teachings and just really glad to be a part of this team. But I want to just say a little bit to frame what brings me here today as I think about us conspiring together to heal the world. Our Jewish friends are celebrating the last day of Sukkot today, and this Jewish expression, tikkun olam, is to heal the world. So one of the things that as a Christian faith leader I really think is important for us to never forget is the guy that we call Christ, the one that we feel calls us into the church, is a rabbi. That's Rabbi Jesus, or Rabbi Yeshua. So undergirding our Christian thinking and teaching and reflection is his faith, his Jewish faith. And if we think about that, I'm going to just take a sip of water. Allergies. Excuse me. If we think about that, then the way that Jesus frames a kind of command to love, it comes right out of his Jewish heritage, where there are 613 laws. 613. Wow. So when he's asked by a lawyer or a rich young ruler, depending on which text you read, kind of like, what's the greatest law? He says, it's this. First, the Lord our God is one, and you shall love God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole strength. Love God. He says, and the second one is just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So he pulls these two laws out of Hebrew scripture to say, love God, love neighbor, love self. In other words, love, period. This is what it means to be faithful. As a young Christian woman, growing up in a kind of conservative family, the teachings about what was right and what was wrong is what I thought was my life journey. Like, make sure you don't curse, and make sure you save sex for marriage, and make sure you make the rules. But the older I've gotten, I understand that what God really treasures the most from us is how we love each other, how we love the world into healing. All of the world's major religions have something about love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. Don't withhold from someone that which you need for yourself. One religion says, don't break anyone's heart. Isn't that amazing? Just don't break anyone's heart. So this is my job in the world now as a faith leader, is to convert people to love. To convert you to fierce love. Not nammy-pammy squishy love, not conditional love, not did you bring me flowers love, not what can you do for me lately love, but love that acknowledges that we're inextricably connected one to the other. Ubuntu. I am who I am because you are who you are. That's a Zulu expression that kind of sits right in the middle of that love each other commandment. I want us to think as a human species, less about rules, who's in, who's out, more about we all belong. Less about prosperity gospel, more about everyone should have enough. Less about what's wrong with you and more about let's celebrate what's good about each other. Less about the borders and boundaries and rituals and creeds, and more about a universal call to love each other just exactly as we love ourselves. So I'm hoping we get to have a great conversation about that right now.
Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you.
Beautiful opening.
Thank
you.
you.
Get us grounded in what matters most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm going to start with the questions. So first one's from Kevin. He says, I'm a recovering opinion wielder, so I'm learning that the need always to be right says more about my own insecurities than what I want to correct in others. But, for example, engaging with anti-vaxxers in a non-judgmental, helpful way is still a challenge for me. How might I do this better?
Oh, Kevin, your vulnerability in that question is so inspiring to me. Yeah, I think, honestly, a lot of us get strident about our beliefs, strong about our opinions, because actually what we feel is afraid and vulnerable. And we think if we declare ourselves, we'll feel more protected. And truly, engaging with people who disagree with us is always difficult. But I think in this context, where all of us are terrified about COVID, right? Let's be honest. Then this ups the ante of the disagreement. It just ups the ante. So I think I like to think about having a holy curiosity about folks. I don't know if these, Kevin, are your friends or family or just in general strangers, but if it's people you know, to have that kind of conversation that just where you say, as judgment-free as you can, tell me why you're concerned about the vaccine. Tell me your story. What part of it makes you nervous? Why are you anxious? Those kinds of questions open up the door for you to value and respect the thing they feel, even though you disagree. It might give you insight about why they're making that choice. And then you could, after listening really deeply, not rehearsing what you're going to say, really listening, you could come back with, well, let me tell you why it really worries me, for you and me, if we don't get vaccinated. So I think that's the intimate place. But in the world where this is happening, try to think about putting facts and science in a loving way in those conversations on social media or in the world of, sort of at work. You don't have to prove anything. You can say it shows that the vaccine is this many % effective. And I understand that though there are breakthrough cases, they're gentle. So that the facts help make the case and you can continue to respect your colleague, your friend, your neighbor. I hope that'll work.
Thank you, Jacqui. Sounds really helpful. Yeah, very helpful. This is from an anonymous friend. What is our responsibility to people of privilege and affluence whose need seems to come from a place of entitlement? If we are surrounded by such people, do we need to find a way to remove ourselves? Or is there a way to love from within without validating the entitlement?
Okay, wow, Anonymous, that's an excellent question. You know, when I was a younger preacher, I could be pretty strident about wealthy people need to let go of their wealth and get in the game and share with the masses. And as life has gone on, some of my most generous congregants are some of my most wealthy people. So how can you demonize the wealthy people who are being generous to the poor? I think what you're asking about entitlement, though, is just really valid and fair. I don't know what your sphere of influence is. I don't know what you do for a living or what your vocation is, but wherever you are, you have a chance to tell a different story. So in other words, I'm thinking about, for example, Lynn Twist's book about abundance, right? So to be saying to your children, your teenagers, your folks, what would happen if we all felt that there was enough? So that kind of inquiry, what if we acted as though there was enough? Do you have wealthy friends who you can invite into partnership with you around giving to the United Way or to the United Negro College Fund or sending money to Haitian Bridge right now where people are really needing resources? So redirecting those kinds of resources by touching the heart of the ones who have them. Someplace inside the entitlement probably also is compassion or empathy. And that's, I think, the key to unlock the feeling of this is mine to this is ours. And let's see if we can build an economically just world together. Can you feel how optimistic I am about this? I really am.
That's a beautiful statement, an economically just world.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Jacqui.
Thank you, Kristen.
So this is kind of a follow-up question from another anonymous friend. As a white woman with a middle-class privileged life, when I volunteer at churches and shelters, I feel such a deep divide because of the opportunities I have that I didn't earn. Could you speak to how to approach and dismantle these feelings?
Yeah, that's really real, isn't it? And the more we leave the safe place behind the gate, inside our house, in our yard, on our block, and encounter the other who has less, the more we can feel actually kind of embarrassed even that we have enough. So I would say everyday choices will change the way you feel. And for example, my son really has taught me about the value of not shopping at that beautiful big box convenience store where you can order it today and get it in 5 hours. You know the one I mean? He challenges me about that. He challenged me to think about, therefore, where I shop, period. When something's on sale, what does that mean? Who's not getting paid? So how we consume resources, the television we watch, the dolls or toys you buy for your kids, the school you decide to send your children to, the neighborhood you decide to live in, what you decide to expose all the people in your life to, all of those things have something to do with privilege and wealth and comfort. And to eradicate a feeling of sort of shame and I'm not doing enough is just to make small choices. Small choices to shop locally, right? Small choices to listen to different kind of music, to expose yourself. And then I think what happens is your behavior changes your feelings. And not only that, our behavior changes the world.
Yeah, thank you, Jacqui. Just that question, the sense of feeling a divide because the opportunities I've had that I didn't earn, I just so agree with you that if the first place you go to is shame, it doesn't help anyone. It's such a negative energy. Yeah. So how do you own that statement, which is so beautifully written, but move out from a place of love as you're describing, rather than getting stuck and frozen or... Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really to be said about just gratitude. Because we are, some of us, just lucky. I want to be honest to say, the kind of conversations about blessed. Girl, I'm so blessed because so-and-so and whatever. And think then the poor people are not blessed. Or God, like blessed are the poor, right? The Beatitude says as well. So gratitude for the ways we've been privileged, lucky, and to think consciously about how we can pass that kind of lucky gift to the people around us. That is the way I think we will feel better.
That's beautiful, and it feels like more of a flow than a
Yeah, right.
Yeah, how can I make it flow through gratitude? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
I think so.
Yeah, thank you. So a question from Beth. How do I say something when I see something without letting my ego take over? The I'm right, you're wrong, us against them, and wanting to feel superior takes over at times, and I feel that I just cause harm and confusion.
Well, these are the questions that should prompt a new book to write. This is an excellent question. Yeah, I think we all have ego, right? Ego just says I. It's the I. Designed to protect us, honestly, right? We're sort of in our psyche, in our makeup to protect us. But I think we can mitigate that ego, that I, by this concept of Ubuntu that I'm trying to talk about. That we, the I replaced with we, the I replaced with us. I am inextricably connected to you. And you means the little girl in a Chinese orphanage, and you means the Haitian man trying to get his kid to safety in America, and you means the very super rich person making lots of money on Wall Street who actually feels broken inside and as though if he doesn't keep showing up, he's not okay. All of those different kinds of I's are we. And I think if you speak from the place that you also need help to be a better person, like I am a psychologist and a clergy and da-da-da-da-da, but I don't know everything. So there's something about humility, real true humility, to say we're all on a journey, we're all seeking together. And therefore, when I approach the person with, here's what I'd like to share with you as wisdom or an idea or advice, I'm coming from not here on high, but coming from here in the middle of a we. We together are on a journey to a better place. And that's just so different to me, the way we locate ourselves in that sharing of an idea. Yeah. I feel like I wish I could see you. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
I'll stand in. Yes.
Good.
Makes a lot of sense.
Great, thank you.
With those ego questions, I was just connecting the dots on, because sometimes the ego gets way ahead of the good reason. And, you know, we've been saying we conspire together, which is to breathe together.
Yes.
And how the breath can be such a great tool just to reground us to what we know is true, get us back in our bodies and our hearts and into that, what you described, when our ego's kind of way out there wanting to be separate and distant and so when you just said it made me think of this whole conference theme of we conspire together, and how can we encourage each other to breathe, get back in our bodies. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I love the word, all those words with the spire. All the words with the spirit, right? Like inspire, conspire, transpire. This idea, though, of breathing together, you know, we could breathe by ourselves, but that's just not actually what works. What happens actually is the in and out is a group project.
Yes.
Right? It just is.
Yes.
And it is a beautiful biological reminder of how much we need each other in order to survive.
Yeah. I think Jim Finley in his meditation last afternoon said something like, what if we were to show up to meditation and the first practice was hold your breath for 5 minutes? He said it's probably not going to go well. So at one level, our breath is not our own, it belongs to the giver of life that connects us all.
That's right. Amen to that.
Here's a question from an anonymous friend. How do we practice Ubuntu with family members who are chronically mentally ill or substance abusers? Here, healthy self-loving boundaries and actions are attacked as selfish, and talks that bring about transformation, like your father, are nil. Ubuntu is not returned. How do we keep loving safely?
Wow, thank you so much for that. How do we keep loving safely? Can I just start at the very end with that last question, so that I can be honest to say, every relationship is not going to get healthy. It's not. Every relationship isn't going to be saved, redeemed, fixed, healed, transformed. It's not. Sometimes folks' relationship with the substance or the relationship with the work or their relationship with their anger or their story is going to be more important than their relationship with you. And you're going to grieve that, and you're going to let it go. And I don't think that means you don't love the person. I think you can love someone and let them go. Toxicity, violence, abusive relationships, none of that stuff is good for us. And we're not required by God or love or the universe to stay in dangerous, harmful situations. So I just want to say out loud, no, baby, that is not required. I also want to say that the reason my dad and I got good is because I got tough and honest. So Ubuntu, I am because you are, or not. Neither the love neighbor thing is wimpy, is weak. It is tough. It is hard. It requires confrontation, or what I sometimes call carefrontation, to tell the truth, to ask for what you need, to say, this is not okay, I love you, but this is not okay. It hurts me when you hurt yourself, I'm disappointed, like all of that. And those old-fashioned I statements really do work, to not blame, but to just really own, I feel, therefore. So we've got to have many tools in our relationship kit. But the self-love piece, dear one, anonymous friend, that's where it starts. And when you love yourself, you might have to say no to someone else. And that's just going to be hard, but okay. That's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Jacqui.
Thank you.
Another anonymous friend. Perhaps when we choose not to see, we are closing our hearts to the flow of the Spirit, the flow of love. How might we overcome the fear of going down the path of unknowing? Can we trust in grace to lead us when we are confused?
Wow. Did you read my book already? The last chapter in the book I wrote, we're going to talk about later, learning how to see is sort of in the last chapter. These amazing rabbis that I had a chance to study with in Israel, Rabbi Hartman, the lead one, said something like the ethical life is learning how to see. Here's the truth. We sometimes can't see. We sometimes don't see well. I sometimes don't see how loving my husband, John, could just be getting on his last nerve. Like, right? Do you need some water? Do you need some coffee? Do you need some cake? Like, he just really wants to be quiet. And I'm just talking, you know? And I can't see that what I want, actually, to connect is thwarting his need for peace and quiet and just some introvert time. That's a real personal example of how I can get that wrong. But sometimes we just can't see the patterns that we're living out, the behavior that we're living out, how it affects our colleagues at work or our kids or our parents. So the journey to see what we can't see is a lifelong journey. I just think it is true that we're going to have intention and practice looking and opening our eyes, interrogating our stories, as I said earlier, asking hard questions of ourselves. What about this is about me? That might need a coach, that might need a therapist or a spiritual director or a good friend. But what you don't see, as we begin to just turn our eyes to it, actually does become plain, more clear, like aperture on a camera, or like getting your cataracts removed, which I had to do, or getting a new pair of glasses. And it just takes time and grace and breathing and space. So be gentle with yourself as you try to see better, and be intentional about trying to see better, and maybe look for some partners to be on that journey with you so you can have beautiful conversations about how what we haven't seen starts coming into view and makes us all better together. I have faith that we can do it.
Do you feel like, Jacqui, part of that loving ourselves in this kind of journey that you were just describing is really forgiving ourselves for what we couldn't see and what we didn't know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so right. Thank you for saying that, Kirsten. Like, we just don't know all the things, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to get it wrong. I think particularly right now, Kirsten, about the culture of, cancel, and you did that wrong, and you screwed that up, and I'm going to stop talking to you. Even if that happens to you, you don't have to do it to someone else. And when it comes to you, you don't have to cancel yourself out. Like, I'm so horrible, or I'm so shameful. But, no, I'm just human on a journey, conspiring with the holy, with the people around me, to be better, to do better, to get better. And if we turn our eyes toward it, I really do believe we will.
Mm-hmm. And it does, she was asking about unknowing. It does take unknowing, doesn't it? You're walking into unknowing
Yep.
if you take this journey.
Absolutely.
And it's that balance of learning and knowing, unlearning,
Yep.
stepping into not knowing. So I love that, the way,
I love this question.
yeah.
It's
with
such a
the unknowing.
non-duality, right, in the question itself.
Yeah.
Like, what becomes plain replaces what wasn't clear, and then there's another question because everything is unfolding the whole time.
Yeah.
And there's something about learning how to walk without knowing exactly where you're going.
I think that's right, isn't
Right.
it? Because if we were certain, it wouldn't be it. 'Cause
That's right.
God's infinite, and it just opens up an infinite path. Yeah.
And you find something out, and then you take another step, and you
Yeah.
find something else out. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. This is a question from Casey. What does it look like to begin to see someone who is emotionally abusive as part of us and also keep safe? My trauma recovery road has only taken me as far as complete disconnection. How do I open my soul to care about him without it generating hope in myself and my children that he will change?
Say the name of that person again?
Casey.
Casey, wow. That is such a good question and such a really important question. I hope that you have support systems in your life in place to help you think about this relationship and how it affects you and yours. So seriously, that's a really important thing to do. I have a friend who, when she first got divorced from her husband, she was in so much pain that all she could do was to sort of try to get her children to feel the same way. You know, like your dad pick a name. And it really was very harmful to the kids, and she ended up over time being able to say, though your dad and I don't love each other, though we don't, he loves you. So this is on the small end of the kind of thing you're describing, where you can teach your children how to love the best part of the person who's harmful, right? But I want to make sure I go to the other side of that with you, which is to say, again, love does not necessarily mean up-close engagement. It just does not. If it's not safe, if it's not prudent, if it's not good for your soul, it won't be good for you and your family. And so there's a way, though, still to be loving to that person. So let's just be particular to say this abusive person has hurt you, but what's the memory of the dating life before that revealed itself? Or what's the best story you have to tell your children about the kindness of that person, so that they are able to in time have a complicated relationship with that person? Nobody is all evil. Nobody is all horrible. There's a little redemptive piece of someone, and now you're teaching your children to be on the lookout for that on the playground with their friends. What's good about Tommy, though he hurts my feelings? And when I say this, I want to make sure I wrap it into, though, love does not mean standing in for being beat up, period. Love does not mean standing in for being trashed verbally, period. You don't need to ever love someone enough to let them hurt you physically and emotionally by staying intimate and close to them. God doesn't require that. The universe doesn't require that. And in fact, love demands that you love you, period.
Yeah, thank you, Jacqui. Thank you for that question, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
Very vulnerable questions. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. A question from Margaret. How do we reach people who do not love themselves, especially when they constantly rebuff you?
I don't know, love. I don't know if it's your job to reach someone who doesn't love themselves. I think that's a risky answer to your beautiful question. What's your job in that dynamic? Is it to reach them? Could it be to model your own love of your own self? Would it be to practice self-love in such a way that it becomes a part of your relationship that they hear, that they see, you taking time to breathe, to take breaks, to drink water, to take baths, whatever all the things that are doing for you to love. Sometimes modeling something might be better, a better teacher than instructing. I'm taking a guess because, of course, I don't know fully, but sometimes people are not ready to be reached. Sometimes people just need time. And if you can be loving yourself consistently and patient with them, they might learn more from that than a more kind of overt style of trying to teach them, is my thought. Thank you for that question.
Yeah. It reminds me of what we were just talking about with unknowing.
Yeah, right.
And how you're even asking us to step back and, bring in some unknowing. Do I have the right answer?
Yeah.
What's God's answer here? And
Yes.
And if we continually weave in what is our actual reality, which is we know some things and there's stuff we don't know, and we constantly weave that reality back into our lives, the knowing and the unknowing, the knowing, it can be helpful. I love the way you're answering questions with that weaving.
I think you're right, Kirsten. And, for any of us, however we have faith, whatever we have faith in, I have faith in God, I have faith in love. If you're a practitioner of Buddhism or another kind of Eastern religion, or if you're Jewish or Muslim, whatever it is that is the other source, the source that's beyond us, that enlivens you or quickens you, that source has answers for you and a reminder that you are not alone on this journey. And so the unknowing is almost like an invitation to prayer.
Yes,
or an invitation to meditation. Yeah. This beautiful setting where we're saying, here's questions, right? Taking those kinds of questions into our meditation practice, our yoga practice, our prayer practice, our visioning board is beautiful and just acknowledges that the answers, though might not be on your tongue, might be in the universe waiting to find you and for you to be a seeker, to look for them, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Well, here's a fun one from an anonymous person. Oh, a gathering of women watching the morning together. Deep bow for you. We see you.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you for speaking, for being.
Oh, thank you, gathering of women. That's cool that you're doing it together. I love that.
Well, Jacqui, we're about halfway through, so I'm going to suggest we take just a minute or two break.
Okay.
To allow people, because there's over 100 questions, so we're not going to get to them all. So I'll just give everyone a chance to review the questions, and please vote up the questions that you think will benefit the community that's here today, and we'll get to as many as we can. But let's just take a minute for you to review the questions and vote some up. In God and understanding how they move forward as it regards to relationships with family members. Go on.
Anonymous friend, I'm a survivor. So I'm intrigued that you would ask that question. I think what I've learned over time is how much an incestuous relationship in a family affects everyone. My friend Eve Ensler has been pretty vocal about her own story of incest. She goes by V now, but in her book Apology, man, she just bluntly tells how traumatizing it was in her life to be raped, I can't say it softer, by her dad for so many years, and then to have a violent relationship. And she was not able to get an apology from him, so she sort of writes it in this book. I'm recommending this book to you. It's triggering, friends, but it's beautiful and powerful. So what am I saying? From her experience to mine, if you go to RAINN, the Rape and Incest Network, I think, but it's RAINN. There are so many resources there for people who survive sexual abuse and incest. And then I think it's shocking how many women, how many children, how many people have this story part of theirs. So I encourage you to have a network of people to support you and to find that. And also to say, of course it's hard to love yourself when someone has hurt you that way. Some of the people in your family might not understand that the incest is an abuse. Often the other children in a family system think that the child who was incested was chosen and therefore preferred. And that's the worst. The feeling that someone who loves you could make you think it's your fault or that you got some gift, when in fact it's a horrible betrayal. So I'm telling you, I understand. And I'm saying, be gentle on your soul as you try to figure it out. Remember that you are beloved by the holy, by God, by the universe. That sexual abuse is a violence. And if you've been violated, of course you're tender there. And so hold yourself gently. If you haven't had a therapeutic relationship, think about one. Tell someone you trust how that feels. Don't expect your family to know more about how to be with you in it than they do, because families don't really do this well, love. They just don't. They really don't. They often re-traumatize the one who was traumatized because they're just awkward and they just don't know. So, but people do know. So remember to look up RAIN. Remember that there are places to get support from people who do understand, and make yourself the most important person in that story. You are the most important person in that story. And you deserve to have space to heal and tenderness and love. And I pray that that's what you find in a network of people who know what they're doing. I pray that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing so much of yourself, Jacqui.
It's tough stuff, boy.
Yeah. Do you want to take?
Well, I actually
You
ran out of my
water.
water. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for sharing that, Jacqui. Yeah. Okay, so from an anonymous friend, I'm a nurse and feel that I have empathy for those around me in the world. How do you keep from feeling swallowed up from all the suffering in the world? There is so much we are powerless to help.
Wow. Nurse wonderfulness, I'm so glad for your gifts. I'm so delighted for your compassion. I'm so not surprised, but honored that your antenna, your empathy, make you sometimes feel swallowed up by the suffering. What kind of world would it be if our physicians and nurses and first responders didn't feel the pain and the brokenness from what they encounter? So bless you, bless you, bless you is my first response. Oh, just bless you. And I think sometimes suffering will swallow us up. I do. I think it just will, it'll just make us feel so overwhelmed, like a tsunami, is hitting us. And when that happens, I think it's a signal both that we are such fierce lovers that we feel that, and also a signal that we need to take a break. So how can you take a break? When can you tag out? How can you ritualize a way to let down the hurt at the end of the day? I had a friend who was a clergy until she got to be an environmentalist more. She just, every night, no matter what, she was just going to take a bath and let the water, made a ritual of letting it go. So maybe there's a way to do something like that, where you are going to, wash your hands in a ritualistic way and wash your face in a ritualistic way and anoint yourself with something that smells good to say, I'm done now today. I'm putting this down today. Is there a candle you light? Is there a book you read? Is there a prayer you say that lets you acknowledge that this suffering is your ministry to address, but that you're not by yourself, and the whole system of the hospital in which you work is all engaged in the same work? So you can take a tag out and let it go. Let it go for a little while and breathe and be ready for the next time. I think those kinds of rituals are super important. And that's part of why we have funerals and memorials and wakes. And there's a little bit of our soul that dies in the work that we do of healing. So you've got to give yourself a chance to let that, to acknowledge the soul death and give your soul a chance to resurrect or resuscitate and get back in the healing business after you've let yourself go fallow for a little while. I hope that's helpful. And thank you for what you do.
Yeah, it's helpful, and sometimes we need to get permission from someone else to
do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do everything. I'm preaching to the choir right here.
I was going to say.
You don't have to do everything.
Having known you, Jacqui, I know you. You find it hard to.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
This is my issue too.
Yeah. I find too. Do you think, Jacqui, with COVID, like there's a chunk of resilience that's just taken out from all of us as we're trying to navigate this whole new world?
It's just so much.
Yeah.
So much. So, but I'm going to call you baby, but if you fully deplete yourself, you won't be able to take care of others. It's what they say on the airplane, put your own mask on first. So just in that image of I have to sometimes stop and breathe and put my mask on so I can go back and do some more love.
Yeah. Thank you, Jacqui. I feel like with COVID, we all
need
to
this
take
message,
heed
right?
of that. Yeah, because it's just taken a level of overwhelm.
It's just crazy town.
Yeah.
Crazy town.
Yeah.
My theological word.
So thank you for the permission. I'm taking it.
Good.
An anonymous friend asks, how do we lovingly respond to those that do not see us?
I just had this happen to me the other day. I don't know if I was lovingly responding. Let's parse lovingly respond. Lovingly respond to whom? When people don't see us and we need to be seen, a loving response might be to actually demand to be seen. Did she say that? Yep. Sometimes we have to demand to be seen, and we don't have to demand to be seen in a violent way or in a angry way or in a disrespectful way. Like you be yourself in that. But I was in a situation the other day with some friends where I actually really did feel I wasn't white enough, right? With white friends, I just wasn't white enough. I wasn't. I was too on the side of the Haitians. I was too looking for colonialization everywhere. I was too black, too me, too justicey, too all the things. And in the moment that it hurt me, I picked one of the friends, the one I trusted the most, the one I thought could hear me, to tell the truth to. Like, this is just really super hard. And I really need your support, and I really need you to help me be seen. And this friend was, like, honest to say, this is a hard conversation, but I do see you, and I can see that it's been hard for you. And I mean, oh my God, that was great. So everyone's not going to get it, but I think sometimes we have allies or accomplices who can get it, and we can have a good conversation with them. And maybe you won't fix the people who don't see you, but just being able to say, I'm not seen right now, might just make you feel better. And that is loving. It is loving to feel better, to speak the truth in love. Now, maybe there'll be an opportunity to say to those friends who don't see you, I was at this CONSPIRE conference. I always think new wisdom, new learnings is an opportunity for new behavior. So you might say, I was at this CONSPIRE conference having a conversation about what it's like not to be seen. And one of the teachers said, if you just say it, it helps people see you. So I'm saying it. You might just say, so listen, y'all, sometimes I feel invisible in this context. And when I feel invisible, when I see you don't see me, It makes me disappear. It diminishes my sense of self. So I want to open up a conversation with you about what it would be like to be more seen in this relationship. Practice. See if that can work. Think about it. See if it's worth the risk. And if it is worth the risk, use this as an opportunity to just say out loud, I don't really feel seen here, and it doesn't make me feel good. It might break something, my love. It might be too hard for them to hear, but it also might be the beginning of a new relationship. There's water.
Like magic?
Magic. Thank you. I'll pour mine here in case you need some, Kirsten. We can share it.
I have a bottle too.
You have a bottle too? Yay.
And tissues.
Yes, all the things. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I'm feeling like I want to tell a short story with that, because it did get voted up to the top. So let me say, like, I love my dad so much, so much. And one of the stories that I think is important in my life with him is I was getting a PhD, Kirsten. That's big stuff. Mississippi parents raise a black kid and you get a PhD. Nobody else got a PhD. I got a PhD. And my dad was so uncomfortable with one of my friends who was at this graduation party. Turns out to be John. I married him. But at this moment in time, we were friends, kind of having a crush on each other. And my dad was just so rude to John that he left my party, my house, my grown life, 45 years old. And my dad caused my friend to leave my party by being so rude. I think all my life growing up, I felt like I wasn't supposed to disrespect my father by kind of calling him out on something. But at that moment in time, I thought, if I don't help my dad see me now, we're never going to have the relationship I want. So I took the risk to say, Daddy, you were so mean, you were so rude, I can't believe you treated John that way, and he left. And my dad was like, and, kind of angry. And I was like, no. I want you to think about it. Because seriously, Dad, what I want is for us to be close. But if you're going to be disrespectful like that and not see me as a woman, grown, able to make my own decisions, I'm not going to have a relationship with you. I'm going to step back, and that's what's going to happen. Now, friends, that was the scariest confrontation I've ever had in my life. I'm just being honest. I was like, what is going to happen now? But the next morning, my dad was like, I don't want to lose you. If I hadn't told him, if I hadn't asked to be seen, he wouldn't have seen me. But I did ask to be seen, and he did see me. And now, my dad will tell that story. He'll say, you know that John? He does not take any stuff. When I acted so-and-so and so, John left the party. And now he'll say, my little white husband, John and Jacqui do more for race relations than anybody I know. He saw all of that because I asked him to see. Do you see what I mean, friend? So it's hard. It's like terribly hard. But sometimes what we want, we'll get if we ask for it. Sometimes.
Thank you.
Sometimes.
From an anonymous friend. In a summit by Catholics for Catholics, the speakers spoke with certitude and forcefulness about what is truth, like there is only male and female. My heart broke. No more beginner's mind. For me, at the age of 71, there is much to unlearn. There is as much to unlearn as there is to learn to see. What traps a person in certitude?
Wow. Are we writing all these questions down for later? That's an amazing question. What traps a person in certitude? That is just excellently articulated. Fear of the unknown, comfort, habit, history, the stories that are told to us that we might suspect are not the right stories, but everybody's living with that story, so me too. All of that, all of those things and more can trap us in certitude. I love your question, and I think I want to ask what gives us permission to get out of certitude as well. Like, what is it? and I would say like experiences, right? I don't know exactly when is the day that I understood that my friend Joey was trans, but Joey trusted me to like show me that part of him as he was claiming his maleness. And then I wasn't trapped anymore. I had an experience of the non-binary. I still mess up and mispronounce people, and oh my God, I feel horrible. But like, I saw it. I saw from my own eyes Joey become Joey, claim Joey. So experiences can untrap us. That might mean reading a good book about something. It might mean having a rigorous conversation with someone. It might mean joining a Facebook group or a Twitter thread or something, or really doing some research, right? Remember research, friends, right? Like, look it up, right? Mm-hmm. But we can get untrapped from certitude if we know why we're trapped in certitude. Mm-hmm. My habits, my social location, the story I've been told, mm-hmm. the life I've lived. And I'm just going to try to break it out a little bit at a time. And I just want to keep saying over and over again in this talk, grace upon grace upon grace as you try to move forward. Grace upon grace. As your friend who's trapped tries to move forward. That we are not going to get there tomorrow to the promised land of sort of wisdom and knowledge and a healed world. But every single step we take, including the question that we ask, helps us to begin to get on the journey. And maybe the certitude that we yearn for is, I am certain that I don't know everything. I just don't. And I'm going to be a student for the rest of my life.
It sounds like the person who asked that question at 71 has discovered that as a way of life. Yeah. I wonder, Jacqui, I know you've lived inside of denominations and institutions, because there's something about the certitude that's built into the institution or the denomination and so how can I, if I'm, can kind of trap people that way?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. That's excellent. I'm a Presbyterian, which doesn't mean anything to any of you, but means something to many of you probably, Protestant, and also in the United Church of Christ now. And I do think as soon as the church started becoming a church, like as soon as Constantine sees the cross in the sky and decides to make Christianity the state religion, and we could go back into Islam and back into Judaism or Buddhism or any of the things that got codified and structured, those institutions are meant to make you feel safe and confident and clear and held in a container. Excuse me. I'm allergic, don't be alarmed.
Oh, yeah. Richard's been suffering with allergies here as well. Yeah.
Terrible. Ragweed City. But actually, so then I think it's actually a brave, courageous thing to ask that question at 71 or any time. Mm-hmm. Because certainty is the playpen, the boundary, the swaddling, whatever we've had since we're babies to make us feel safe. When you get uncertain, you get unclear. And it can be frightening. So I want to see you be brave, friends. And question all the things that you really are curious about. And move to certainty, not as a kind of destination, but as a frame for curiosity. I'm certain that I'm curious. I'm certain that I don't know. I'm certain I'm on a journey. I'm certain I've made mistakes, right? I'm certain that I'm wrong. And I just think that would be so liberating for all of us.
Yeah. And when you put it that way too, when you think about institutions, they don't have that skill set. It's very rare that an institution can in a timely manner, start saying those kinds of things. So the way like when we step into the institution like the Catholic Church, there's just so much structured in there. So to be a free human being and curious and be able to ask the questions, eventually can tip the institutions, but we need to gain our own freedom.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And institutions are made by people. So they can be dismantled by people. They can be shifted by people if we'll give ourselves permission.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Well, we've only got 4 minutes left, so I'm going to stop the questions there.
Okay.
And there's a couple of things I wanted to mention, and then I'm going to give you a chance to say a closing statement. But I wanted to mention Jacqui's wonderful podcast, Love Period.
Love Period. Produced by CAC.
And so season 1 you recorded was it earlier this year?
Yes.
It's gone very well. And you're coming up to record season 2.
Yep, season 2 is probably going to drop at the very beginning of November. We're recording in October. Beautiful guests from all kinds of walks of life to help us to think about what love looks like.
Another free resource from the CAC, you did the podcast with Richard and Brian.
Learning How to See.
Learning How to See. That was a good dialogue between the three of you.
Oh my
around,
gosh, that was awesome.
Around
2 of my heroes.
Around biases. And that was great. And then I'm so excited to be able to hold up, ta-da!
Ta-da!
And I feel like it could either be called Fierce Love or Jacqui Lewis.
That's great. Thank you, Kristen.
And I love this subtitle, Bold Path to Ferocious Courage and Rule-Breaking Kindness That Can Heal the World.
That is a mouthful, right, friends?
It's worth reading over and over. Yeah. So this book's coming out in November, but we can get it now, right? We can pre-order?
Yep, you can pre-order now, and there's some amazing pre-order gifts, including a book club kit that's got a journal and pull quotes and conversations to have with your colleagues and a calendar, all kinds of things to help you to make there's 9 practical practices in this book about how to love yourself, about how to love your posse, your people, and about how to love the world into healing. So I'm really proud of it. It kind of gestated in my body for 9 years, and then flew out of my body in 9 months during COVID. Wow. So,
well, what I love about you, Jacqui, is you're a pastor to us. You kind of gently give us practical ways, like a past. I can read your words and feel like, I'm being pastored, I'm being shepherded, I'm being cared for. So it's not theories. No. It's like practical and helpful. So.
Practical and helpful. 9 steps, lots of good stories, and you. These are stories I've picked up in my practice as a pastor. Practices that I've learned really work for people because I'm a pastor. So you'll feel this reflected in the book, that you are in the book, you and the way you've lived your lives. Like so many of the people that I've bumped into live their lives with this kind of love that is going to be the religion, the connected tissue. Brian taught me that religion means connect, right? To relegate means to connect. This kind of love, I think, will connect us to each other and the universe in ways that will only make us better. So I hope you'll buy it, and we can talk about it some more.
1 minute for a closing goodbye.
Okay. Here, I think. You are your best thing. I think Alice Walker put those words in the mouth of Shug Avery to Seeley in the book The Color Purple. I found God in myself and I loved her fiercely. That's Ntozake Shange, expressing the same kind of thing. There's only one you in the world made exactly the way you are, with all of the things that you've experienced, everything that you yearn for, all the things that go bump in the night and scare you, but all the things that make you feel brave. There's only one you. And I am calling you in to use yourself in the healing of this world. I can make a list of all that's wrong, but part of what's right is good people like you who know how to love their kids, know how to love their neighbors, know how to make their spouse feel better at night, know how to tell the truth or go protest or write a tweet that'll change the world. Be your best self by loving yourself. Let that love overflow into your neighborhood, into your posse, and know that all of that is going to make the world all better because we do it together. It's super hard work, but I think we're up for it. And I'm counting on us to do it together. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Jacqui.
Thank you, Kristen. You're so good at this.
Oh.
Let's do it again.
Okay, anytime.
Thank you for coming,
Anytime.
everyone. We're
Thank
so glad
you.
you're here. Bye.